Yeah, surf the beat cause the bass is bubbling. Gotta get it in before it comes tumbling down. There's only so much time to find this kind of rhyme to express my mind. Cause everything that has ever been made.
Hello and welcome once again to the CageCast, Jive Turkeys. This is Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey Mozz, so glad to have you as always. Tonight's episode of the CageCast is Manifest, written by Akila Cooper, of course created by Chio Hodari Coker, directed by Andy Goddard. Okay, this was a powerful episode. I think we can agree to that.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite episode of the series so far.
Yeah, without a doubt. This is where we're going to say, this is a show that has a superhero, but it does not need a superhero. That is not its hook. Its hook is that this is a great little, you could do a show about Misty Knight as the one uncorrupt cop in Harlem dealing with the internecine criminal dealings of the Stokes Empire, and this would be just as good and just as popular a show. But you add in a big bulletproof guy, and it just gets even better. Okay, so this episode is Manifest, and we open up with business as usual in the Stokes Empire. Zip is selling
procuring
guns,
weapons, or selling guns. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I believe he's selling them because I believe the Stokes are gun merchants. So
gotcha.
They get the stuff that falls off of Hammer's truck, and then they sell it to the local populace who has need to exercise their Second Amendment right. No questions asked, because hey, the founders didn't ask any questions. Why should we?
Exactly.
You're right, man. Never doubt it. Okay, so he is selling the guns, and of course, in walks Luke Cage, who, makes a point that he is bigger and stronger and bulletproof, and so your puny weapons do not scare him.
So take off, goons.
Yes, but to that extent, Zip responds with the statement that, Cottonmouth's getting out. You accomplished nothing. Very, very existential here, very nihilist in his philosophy, Luke Cage, for all of his bluster, has accomplished exactly zero. It's, you've destroyed these guns. That wasn't very nice of you. That's very annoying. But let's be honest here. You're not going to stop the flow of guns into Harlem. You're not going to stop the rise of the Stokes Empire, which leaves Luke a little
disheartened, a little surprised,
because
and he has to go see it for himself, and
and
he does.
And further to that detail, we get this fact that Cornell has asked to parlay, which of course is a phrase that was used. Honestly, I was waiting for something bad to happen when he starts talking about parlay, because it's like, this has not been a good phrase in this show of late. But to his word, Cornell does not attack Luke when he arrives, but does reveal a very unfortunate fact to Luke, which is that his name is not in fact Luke Cage, but his name is Carl Lucas. And Cornell is now well versed in who Carl Lucas is. And Carl Lucas, if he does not want
this found out.
Yeah, if he doesn't want to return to Seagate, he needs to understand that he is not as bulletproof as he may think himself.
And also I think he's making the point, Cornell, is that now he works for him.
No.
Which is a broad leap to make.
Yeah. Well, Cornell is not, if nothing else, a man of broad pronouncements.
Right, and a slave to his ego.
Yes, exactly. He is a slave to his ego, and he has decided that Luke Cage will be his will return to his dishwasher status, as it were.
Well, he tells him that he has better plans for him. He tells him, I could use a bulletproof person like you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm using dishwasher metaphorically.
Want him to be his bulletproof errand boy.
Exactly. But that is not what Luke wants to be, in any sense of the word. And of course, Luke basically decides, well, okay, he found out my secret, and he's going to pull a David Banner and just leave town before Jack McGee shows up. This is problematic on many levels, but of course, Claire is there to talk him out of it.
Man, and what a case she makes.
Yeah, well,
she really, really lays it out, clear as day for him. This is the only chance you'll have at this. Either take it or, just keep running.
Exactly. And he does decide to take it, but he doesn't go to Cornell. He goes to confront the Cubans. However, before we get into that, we get some very nice flashbacks in which we get essentially the origins of Cornell and Mariah.
And we finally get introduced to this mythic character, Mama Mabel.
Oh, yes.
And what a character she is. Good Lord.
Yeah, she is. She really is as grand a character in this story as anyone. I really think that...
My favorite line is, I got white folks in the front. I don't want to scare them off.
Yeah. So she is a professional. That is one thing we can absolutely say here is she is a professional. There is so much going on in this. That is LaTanya Richardson Jackson as our Mama Mabel here. Excellent actress. So in our origin here, we get this setup, and I really think that this is the crux of the series. I mean, this episode. I mean, there's a lot that goes on. We get some great superheroing, but all of that is so secondary to the overall story of Cornell and Mariah, because we do see that essentially, Mariah was the favored child of the two.
In a sense, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because it could be argued that he was the favorite because he was groomed to take on the mantle of running the empire.
Yeah, but I think that this is what you see here is your classic mob family conundrum, which is do you use what you've gotten from your criminal enterprise to raise your children up, or do you build the empire out for them? And I think that what you see here is that, I mean, in my mind, Mariah was the one that was said, you will not run a whorehouse. That is not what your destiny is, Mariah. You are going to be a woman of greatness. Cornell, I see, and in many ways, I kind of see in the negativity that Mozz Mabel shows towards Pete, Uncle Pete. I see her seeing in Cornell all of the men who essentially have tried to claim her empire as her own, as their own. And I think that Mom Mabel is essentially, because she can't throw Pete out per se, at least not yet. Right. We'll get to that. She needs to have this man around, and she has decided that even though Cornell clearly has the skills to be an artist, clearly should be an artist, is not going to be allowed to explore that. Mariah's role is to be the respectable face. Right. Cornell's role is to continue on the family business. And yeah, you could argue that maybe there is some positivity in that, in the sense that he is being chosen for that. But clearly, he was not a man who was cut out for it. Right. And I do think that we get repeatedly in the storyline in this episode just more and more evidence that Cornell doesn't have that circumspect skill that Mariah has that would have served Mariah well both as a criminal and as a politician, in which she was.
Certainly.
Now, of course, what's fascinating in this, because we do get this interesting dichotomy between the fact that Cornell is going to walk as a criminal. That's all there is to it. He's going to walk.
Right.
He's got his lawyers. The case is weak. It's based on an already corrupt cop's statements, so he's good there. But Mariah, the mere hint of the scandal is enough to cause her party to say, you need to step down. You need to walk away. You should not be the one in this position. Now, as I've said, heaven forfend, a councilwoman in Harlem may have ties to a as yet unproven criminal person. But I think that actually this was something that I think that people wanted her out. And that's what I get.
Yeah.
That she had long been someone who was told to sit back down.
Well, either that or you always have political rivals in politics. Someone's always reaching for that throne,
This is true too. And however you're gonna cut it, she is the one that's being cast out.
For sure.
And of course, then we get a nice pep talk from Shades, which is
I think he's the only one that truly gets how the system should work or how the system can work, and I think he's the only one that really has Harlem's best interest at heart. The story he tells about him having nothing and the Stokes were there and it meant something to people of this community, that name, and now it's no longer there, and that seems to affect him as a person who belongs to that city,
Exactly. And I do think that he brings to the table something that Mariah needed there. Because we are going to, I do think that Mariah needs to grow beyond what she was raised in and find her own voice. Now, of course, we get a nice bit here. So, and this story is told between flashbacks and the modern day. And when we go to the flashbacks, it is the story of the origin of Mariah and Cornell. And when we go to the modern day, it is Luke Cage's war on crime. But also within this is this other conflict, which of course is what's going on in the Harlem Police Department. Obviously the captain, Misty's captain is out because her precinct was corrupt. Had one corrupt police officer, as it turns out, just one.
Right.
But that one is too many. One is too many. And, and it does appear that they are going to just say, all that corruption, that was just Scarf. That was just him. But rightly so, she's out because, for what it's worth, who knows how far it really went up. I'm not gonna say the captain didn't have some dollars in her wallet that had Mariah's face on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she's out, and of course, who comes in is the IAD captain. We had previously seen during the Scarf investigation, and we find out that
her and Misty have worked together before. They have a history.
Yeah, they do have a history, and you get a really good scene between the two, where basically the new captain calls Misty out on her not following the lead, because of course, obviously, throughout this whole thing, everything on her wall, there's one person that keeps on coming back up, which is Luke Cage. And it's the one person she's not pursuing. Now, of course, we know why, and we get a nice gratuitous flashback of why she's not pursuing him.
And you get a nice moment between Priscilla and Misty there where she turns around to her and just, letting each other know the game is afoot and it's going to be fun playing against you. She turns her and she gives her like this little smile. She says, this is going to be fun. Like they've, butted heads before and now they're going to do it again.
Yeah.
And they're like, may the best woman win, but this is going to be fun. I thought that was kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah, I agree. This is such a well-acted series. This is such a well-written series. It is a thing that, it gives you pride for being a fan of it, which is weird. It's like, I like a show that's good. Yay me, but it is good. It is a very good show. It is a very well crafted show. And it's a show that you never have to feel guilty watching because it has, well-rounded, well-thought-out characters of every group. They don't exist simply to serve a purpose. Even Scarf, as our one white guy, wasn't just the white guy,
Right.
Yeah, but it is, and actually we get a new white guy in this episode, which is the forensic specialist, who is just a happy nerd. This is your nerd wish fulfillment episode. And that's good. It's good that there is a nerd wish fulfillment character in this. And he's just so excited to be a part of the team.
Excited by the puzzle.
Yes.
Of trying to figure out who this guy is.
Yeah, well, yeah, because of course he looks at him and says, "This guy isn't a real person." You realize that, he has one picture that exists, and he's got a social security number with nothing on it. No credit card, no porn history. This man does not exist. He has no porn.
That's impossible.
Literally, it's. Anyway, yeah, and that is a great, and that of course is how we first get this key, which we got earlier, which is that we all know that Luke isn't Luke; he's actually Carl.
Right.
And
when Shades finds out that that Cornell told him, he's a little upset. He goes, "Did you spook him?
Yeah.
Is he gonna run?" And you're like, "Whoa, what is going on here?" And it's like Diamondback has plans for him.
Yeah, well, that is something. Yeah, see, Mozz, you don't watch ahead. I've already watched the whole series, so I know what those plans are, and they are. And it may, when you see it, you see why it's important. When you find out what the whole. Let me put it to you this way: we will reference often in this about how this is a Game of Thrones kind of story. This is a very internecine, complex tale of the rise and fall of the Stokes Hilliard Empire, and that speaks to other aspects as well, and so that Games of Thronian that Shakespearean quality, because really Game of Thrones, it's just Shakespeare,
sure,
with well, honestly, probably more boobs in the fact that they actually have people who have boobs in it. When Shakespeare wrote it, it was all guys, so they couldn't actually show boobs. But yeah, it is this idea that this was, this is a very Shakespearean story. And, not for nothing, Shakespeare, he was a pretty good writer. That Shakespeare kid, he's going places. You watch that name. You watch that name. He's going to come up again. And I am a person who believes that Shakespeare wrote his own plays. I don't believe it was somebody else. I'm a very firm believer. Because I believe that, a lot of writers come from weird circumstances. You don't have to be a highly, you don't have to be the Earl of Roxbury to be a writer. You can just be a guy who's the son of a merchant who, writes plays. Because, it's about, are you observing human interaction? And honestly, if you are a middle class person, you're probably observing way more human interaction than someone who is of the upper class. Because what does an upperclassman know of
struggle?
Struggle, exactly. But in that middle class world, that's where all the struggle is. Because you get to see the upper class, you get to see the lower class, and you can see how everyone in them is human. It's great, but that is Shakespeare, and we're not talking Shakespeare tonight. We're talking Luke Cage.
Right.
Sweet.
It's
Christmas.
almost like when he says, "Did you spook him?" It reminded me of like a hunting show, where they're in the blind and waiting for the turkey to come by, and they're like, "Oh, make a noise! Oh, did you spook the turkey? Now I can't shoot him."
Yeah, well, exactly, and that is that, and as we see from the very end of this episode. That is exactly what the concern was. Because of course, this is one of these moments where we get, Luke Cage, what I will say about it is it does have a habit of having multiple amazing end scenes,
Right.
Yeah. It has multiple amazing end scenes. Where
it's almost like they're giving you the Marvel has the habit of doing post-credit scenes. They're like, let's just give them 3 endings.
Yeah, and that is what we get. So our first ending, which I think is the more powerful ending,
for sure,
is basically a fantastic confrontation between Cornell and Mariah.
Yeah.
Because Mariah is feeling very much that Cornell has destroyed her world. Because Mariah had established herself as the presentable face of the Hilliard-Stokes empire, and now that is over. Now she's being driven out of office by her party. And again, like I said, I think that was something that was probably a long time coming. We do know that the Cory Booker Golden Boy character was the party's favorite to move into her position. And she had lost that backup. But along those same lines, it is a problem for Mariah to lose that power, because she has nothing to fall back on. She is a career politician. It's like this. It is, Cornell gets to walk. Cornell gets his
interesting.
He gets to remain in power. Mariah is lost right now. And of course, and as Shades points out to her, you'll be lucky to be the greeter at the hair expo, which is not cool, but it does motivate her to go confront Cornell and to try and solve their mutual problem.
Right.
And when they're there, now we've gotten a lot of flashbacks throughout this about how Mom's Mabel tried to, essentially thwarted Cornell's dreams to be a musician and forced him to be a criminal, all the while promoting Mariah. But we do also see in this, in these flashbacks, that Mariah's fate was not particularly wonderful either. That she had been sexually abused by
Uncle Pete,
who was Mariah's husband, whom she orders dead because he, it's a very interesting and ongoing idea, this say no to drugs rule, that any criminal has to disavow drug trafficking. And there is truth to this. There were a lot of criminals who throughout history who have said, in fact, some have said that is one of the reasons why the Italian mafia eventually hit weaknesses in their business model, because so many of them said, we are not going to destroy neighborhoods this way. This is not what we do, This is not what we want to do. And that's the case, which we see here, is that, moms will not tolerate the drug trade or the crack trade, as it were. And, because of that, when Uncle Pete tries to create a merger with the drug dealers, that results in his being killed off by Mabel at the hands of Cornell.
Right. It's a great scene because for a moment there where Cornell is pointing the gun at him, Uncle Pete's pleading with him, saying, I'm the only one that ever believed in your dreams or believed that those dreams were worth realizing. What are you doing? And you almost feel bad for him, and you want him to turn around and be convinced and shoot Mom Mabel. But that's not going to happen. But you're still sort of hoping for it. And then Mariah comes out and says, no, you went against the family, and this is for what you did to me all those nights.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh boy, okay, he's got to go.
Yeah. You can't really be rooting for the pedophile in that moment.
Yeah, and negates everything. It's like, all right.
Yeah. It is that uncrossable line. You know, once you cross it, it's like, yeah, we really have nothing to do for you anymore.
No,
you know, unless you want to run for president, in which case, okay, we're fine.
In that case, it's all good.
Yeah, there, you know. My gosh, what a world we live in. Anyway, moving right along, not to get bogged down in politics.
Right.
Moving right along, we get this nice confrontation between Mariah and Cornell at the Harlem's Paradise, where basically, after her yelling at Cornell for ruining her life, Cornell basically throws it all back at her, says you were the favored child, you were the one that, you know, was allowed to pursue your dreams, and don't think I didn't see you flirting with Uncle Pete all those times. You wanted every moment of it. And yeah. I don't know if anyone knows any survivors of sexual abuse. Never tell a survivor of sexual abuse that they wanted it. Aside from the fact that it is the most cruel thing you can say, well, yeah, even if he didn't mean it, he said it to hurt her. So it's like, you know, it's kind of like that Kramer situation. Yeah. Where he just wanted to think of the most offensive, horrible thing he could think of to say. Yeah. And boy, did he gamble wrong there. Yeah, well, you know. Should have ran for president, though, man. Then all is forgiven. As it stands, though, however, Mariah's not having it, and she grabs her closest bottle of Cristal and smashes him over the head with it. I thought the bottle would break, but it just leaves this crazy, scary thudding sound, which is just like, ugh. Yeah, well, because it's a thick bottle. I mean, you know, bottles actually, you know, that's the thing, you know, when they break a bottle against a bar, that's actually like a breakaway bottle. It's like if you actually like took your beer bottle and tried to hit it against the bar, it's not necessarily. It's likely not going to break because it's a bottle that's meant to hold in pressurized water. You know, it's right. Water with CO2. It's stuff that's designed to have some girth to it. Mm. So yeah, which is also why if you hit someone with a bottle like that, it hurts, and you can actually kill a person really easily with it because it's a very heavy club, especially if there's any champagne still in it. Because that liquid is very heavy. And he hits it the back of the head, and he falls through the window, falls down, and you think, okay, he's still alive, but, you know, not for long, because Mariah is not going to take it. She goes down, still in a rage, grabs a mic stand, and, you know, says, I did not want it. Smashes him. Yeah, well, because she did not want it. No. Do not say she was complicit in her own abuse. Mm. She did not want to be abused. And hey, Cornell, did you want this? Yeah, well. Is this what you wanted? So yeah. He's dead. Yeah. And who comes in to save the day? I'm sorry? I said, and who comes in to save the day? Good old Shades. Oh, yeah. Well, Shades is, you know, I'm not going to say Shades saves the day. I mean, well, yes, Shades helps Mariah not get caught. Well, yeah, and to elevate her to power. Yes. Although all for his own accord, I think, you know. Well, yeah. You know, I think he's elevating her because he imagines himself in a better position, you know. Yeah. Because of course, let's not forget he is Diamondback, who we haven't seen yet. Right. He is Diamondback's errand boy. Right. And the weight of Diamondback's obligations maybe weigh on him. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The dynamic it sets up here is, you know, where the power actually lies. Does it lie with the decision maker, or does it lie with the person who influences the decision maker? Mm-hmm. You know, it's like you go back to Aladdin and, you know, the Sultan having that vizier. Yes. You know, who's really the one in power. And it's sort of, if you start thinking about it from that perspective, it's almost like a corporate firing for Cornell. They knew Cornell was out. He was getting too crazy. So they sent Shades down here to manage the transition of power. Yes. And that certainly Well, he's sent to advise. I don't know if he was meant to necessarily transition the power as so much as help the power to structure itself, but of course Cornell was not having that. Cornell was not in a position to defend his own position. And as a result, he finds himself, on the floor of the Harlem's Paradise, beaten with a mic stand.
Jeez. But I think, and he says to her, he goes, "Oh, you know what? It's going to be fine. You're going to rise to power. Look what Luke Cage did to your cousin." You know?
Exactly. And he is a man who has said, I think I should kill him,
Yeah.
Which is, of course, the inherent superheroic conundrum. If you have someone that you have no weapon against, and they do decide to start killing people, what stops them?
Yeah.
What stops them from letting them exercise that wrath?
We do see something that can't stop them, right?
Well, yes, we get to that. Well, we've already seen it earlier in this series, the Judas bullet, and like I said, this is you get multiple endings in these episodes. So after the very cathartic and very powerful death of Cornell, we get Claire and Luke just talking, and Claire and Luke essentially are having a conversation. Luke is explaining how his problem, because Cornell knows that he used to be Carl Lucas,
right.
And
she tells him, "Hey, I might know a lawyer that can help you out of your situation."
Yeah. I'm hoping she doesn't mean Matt Murdock, because that guy's a hack. Got to get Foggy for that. Foggy's the good lawyer. Yeah,
Indeed.
So they're coming to that nice bit, and then all of a sudden we see a black Humvee, very armored, pull up. We see a assault weapon, barrel extend out of the window, and then a single pop.
Yeah. And I always wondered, they think the Judas will work, but would it really?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is they really don't know. They don't know that it would work. They just know that it's
our best shot.
Yeah. Like they said, this was a weapon that someone designed because they said, if you need to kill a god. And let us not forget, there are gods wandering around New York right now. You have Thor and Loki. And there may be good reason to want to shoot either of them.
Yes. Indeed.
And so you have this weapon, Hammer Technologies, the finest in the land. And
a mysterious person behind the gun.
Yes. And he says, which is important, a Judas for a Judas, which does imply that there is some history between this gentleman and Luke Cage.
Yeah. What other problems did he run from?
Yes. And in that, Luke Cage is shot. And we end this episode with Luke Cage, apparently not quite as bulletproof as I thought. And Claire going like, what the what? Yeah. And that is the end of the episode. Yeah, pretty impressive episode, without a doubt.
Front to back, great episode.
And I'll tell you, the second ending, even though as cathartic as Cornell is, I think it gives us something really strong and powerful going into the next episode.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next episode.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So very good. So Mozz, if people would like to talk to you about what we've just watched or what we may watch in the future, how can they reach out to you?
You can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com. It's MOZZMANZOOR.
Very good. And of course, if you'd like to write to me, you can do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, you can follow me on the Twitters, that old-fashioned, or the new-fashioned Twitter way, @CharlieEsser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle for quality. And, of course, listen to me and Mozz again talk about the old 1979 Hulk show on GammaCast, on the 80s Reboot Overdrive, and, of course, I'm all over the Southgate Media Network as well. Sweet Christmas, Jive Turkeys.
Sweet Christmas.
Sweet Christmas. This has been another installment of the CageCast. Come step into the cage with us again next week. Good night.